Colts and the Texans. Big news here is this move has gone from this thing has moved all the way from 2.5 to 3.5. The news on Will Fuller getting suspended. And you have to think that this came out of nowhere, guys, because just 2 days prior, they sent Kenny Stills packing and cut him. And so they certainly they'd have been like, hey, man, you're disgruntled. I don't care. You're now an every down receiver, so you're going to play. We don't care if you're pissed off or not. But instead, they sent him on his way, and then Will Fuller gets suspended for the rest of the season. They have two different actual active roster receivers currently. Of course, they're going to call guys up off the practice squad and things like that. But it is Kiki Kuti, and like that is now a guy who had fallen out of favor and was getting no snaps is now literally like your number 2 receiver for this. Yeah, I mean, for this team now, it's absolutely nuts when we take a look at this. Of course, Brandon Cooks being the other guy there for the Texans. There are narratives out there, and guys, people are actually doing this where they're showing splits of Deshaun Watson with and without Will Fuller on the field and saying, like, look, his numbers aren't all that bad when Will Fuller isn't on the field. He had friggin' DeAndre Hopkins on the team. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how are people doing this? Like, it is completely useless information. That is garbage information. Like, yeah, okay, his numbers weren't all that bad. He had a top 5 receiver in the whole friggin' league on the team. So, I mean, come on. This is absurd that people are doing this and putting these numbers out there with all this. So it's moved through the key number. We're sitting at 3.5 right now on this one, Brad. 50.5 is our total right now on this thing. And again, there's going to be Texans with 2 roster receivers and a bunch of they do get David Johnson back if that matters for anybody.
Yeah, it is tough because we do know Deshaun Watson is playing, like a top 3 quarterback level. He's not far behind Mahomes if we take into account what's around him, because he's got kind of an interim coach, and so we're really going to see how important wide receivers are, because I think generally they are important, especially with the Colts getting healthy here. They got Buckner back about 10 minutes ago. He was activated. Danico Autry's back. Bobby Okereke, the linebacker, also questionable, but should be back as well. So suddenly they're at full strength again. They're not the team that was blown off the field last week by the Titans. They're a good defense, and I think they probably keep the Texans in check. And then on the other side of the ball, Bradley Roby as well. He was popped for PEDs as well on the Texans, and he's like the only good cover corner on the team as well. So suddenly the Texans don't really stop the run that well. Now they've lost their best cover corner. So I think the Colts move the ball, and I think they probably stop the Texans moving the ball. But I don't want to lay the 3.5. That's a big number, especially with the worst quarterback. So the angle I liked here was first quarter or first half. You probably lay 2.5 with the Colts. They've got the best EPA per play on scripted plays. Frank Reich's cooking up some nice stuff early in the game. And I would say Romeo Crennel is not, essentially. And, there might be some adjustment with how these receivers work out there. So I like Colts first half, probably minus 2.5 or so, if you can get that.
So, Brett, I just see right here about 11 minutes ago, because we are recording, so this happened while we're doing this. DeForest Buckner has been cleared and will play this week for the Colts. I took the Colts at 3. I did not catch the 2.5, unfortunately. It was gone, but I took the Colts at 3 in this thing. Here's the deal. You can't. This is when we're talking about wide receivers and importance of this, right? It's even more important for a team that cannot run the football at all. And this Texans team cannot run the football at all. And now they're going to get a Colts defense that actually defends the run, much better when DeForest Buckner's in there. We saw him get blasted. I mean, absolutely destroyed last week with him not in there. We're talking about another guy that's an actual, true, real playmaker in there, a top 5 guy rated by Pro Football Focus at his position. And him being in there, I think, is going to help out a ton here. And it is a Houston team that has no success at all running the football. They can't figure out how they want to go about running the ball. It seems like they have a different running offense each and every week when we go out there. And so they're going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to be throwing the ball to, a bunch of practice squad guys. And I just think that is going to be too much to overcome here. I took the flat 3. I got to be honest, I don't even hate the 3.5. I certainly, you want flat 3. I would look at maybe buying it down if that's the way you wanted to play it, just to give yourself a little bit of push equity there. But I think the Colts, it's a pretty good spot for the Colts here against a Houston team that's going to be down, again, their biggest playmaker.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson now has a limited selection of playmakers to throw to. And unfortunately, yeah, that's been the best part of this Texans team all season. First in the NFL in explosive plays, first in yards per pass, and Will Fuller had a lot to do with that. And now the team's also without Randall Cobb, and as you mentioned, Kenny Stills. Meanwhile, their opponent this week, Indy, has been very good at defending the pass this season. So the move from 2.5 to 3.5 is understandable. The thing about Deshaun, though, is that he seems to adjust well with what he has, and he can do it on his own. This is an elite quarterback, so the loss of playmakers doesn't impact him as much as a quarterback who relies on his big playmakers. So I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to follow the herd on the Colts with this move. Indy just doesn't do enough offensively to excite me to put money on them as a road favorite. This Houston defense is really bad, and really good offenses have cut them up all season, but the Colts lack that firepower. I like Brad's angle there with the scripted offense in the first half with Frank Reich, because they do have spurts of really good play calling, which opens up the field, and they have had more explosive plays than I would have expected this season. But I don't know, anything north of 3 is a play on Houston for me because of Deshaun Watson and his ability to just kind of improvise and make plays. And yeah, we're getting the much better quarterback here, plus money at home.
I should also mention the Colts, all the guys that had to miss because of COVID, all of them actually are going to be back this week. It looks like right now. So, they'll get a full offense back in there. Like, yeah, I mean, I see where y'all are coming from. I just do believe there's not going to be enough to get it done on the Houston side of things. I mean, listen, when it's just such an incredible drop off between a Will Fuller and calling a guy up off a practice squad. There's a big difference between a Kenny Stills and calling a guy up off of a practice squad. And, again, a team that can't run the ball at all. So it's going to be a one-dimensional offense against a team that defends well that one dimension, so it wouldn't surprise me, actually. I think, this is no surprise. Y'all know. I mean, David Johnson played wide receiver in college, and then they moved him to running back. It would not surprise me to see him line up a ton at wide receiver, actually, to try to get a familiar body out there to throw to, a familiar face for Deshaun Watson. So, whatever his props come out at for receiving yards, I'm going to take a really heavy look at that. And if it's something that I feel is a little bit low, because again, we don't have the props listed right now, or I would love to be able to give some more in-depth analysis on this, but the player props haven't been listed in the games yet. But if his receiving yards are in the mid-20s, low 30s, I'm going to be playing the over on that a ton. I actually think that they could line him up and kind of use him out of the slot, use him as a receiver here, because again, he used to do it, and he's a familiar face where these other guys are not going to be for Deshaun Watson.
They could do the same with Duke Johnson probably too.
Yeah, absolutely.